things are definitely getting serious now. We've got lights. We've never had lights in the boat shed before. But if I'm to get this boat finished for June, I have to work in here at night, and it's going to be warm enough at night. Actually, the next 2 nights are in the 30s, but after that, 40s and 50s, which means it won't get cold as quick. I won't be out here till midnight this time of year, but I can stay out here for a while. We're going to stay here long enough to see how well these lights do, and if they're not enough, I'll add some more. But I think this is going to do a pretty good job for most of what I need to do at night. The only downside being the filming's not going to be nearly as pretty because I won't have the natural light. We'll work around it. We'll do what we have to do to get Unbeknownst done. My earliest memory is riding in my grandfather's boat, arm over the side, hand in the spray. I've spent much of the rest of my life chasing this feeling. All of that has led to this, the wooden boat experience. I stopped by to see Mike Mahoney at Wooden Boat Restoration, where I found some varnish inspiration. Coat number 3 on the gas tank door and the flagpoles and the little header above and the other piece below the gas tank door. Starting to get thicker. A few more coats and we will sand this. So far we just hit it with Scotch-Brite in between. This coat went on full strength, so we're going to wait more than 24 hours to recoat this, although we do have the wood stove going, so it's comfortable in here. It's not really hot or anything. It's just comfortable, and it'll be warm throughout the night. Saturday began with me checking out the bracket to hold the steering cable in place in the rear of the boat. This led me down a mechanical rabbit hole, modifying the rudder, removing the hub from the shaft, and working on replacing the cutlass bearing. Some of this was done with the help of Bill Briggs. Take the collar off. This is what we need to drill it. You can see where it's oblonged, where it must be, if you look at this, you can see that the threads are all worn out. This is oblong, so what must have been happening? That was actually not threaded in there more. It was loose and was kicking back and forth. We don't want that going on. We're not going to need this anymore. This goes into our stash of Chris Craft parts. What we do want is this into there. So we'll measure this bushing, drill this out. That'll go in like that or like this. I'm not sure if it wants to go on top. We need to get it down below the floor level, which there isn't a lot of space back there, but it looks like it's all going to work out. So let's measure this and do that right now. .496, so it's basically ½ inch. So a ½ inch bit is what we need. Always make sure you turn these off, otherwise every time you go to use them you got to put a new watch battery in there. Holy cow, that's a grabby bit. Looks like it worked though. Had we been using the original, we would have had an issue there because of the way that was oblonged. Wasn't sitting in there nicely. So this steering system is going to be a real improvement in a couple different ways. Not only is it going to be nice and smooth and brand new, but it takes up a lot less space. That pipe going all the way down the bilge is hard to clean around. Plus you have the big mechanical apparatus underneath behind the dash in the bow, which now we have a lot of storage in there. So now that bushing goes in there. Might need a little tap here. So nice bushing in there, makes everything all smooth and easy again. This will go on either top or bottom, I'm not sure yet. Always a spacer on in between the nut, spacer, this arm, spacer, this attachment point, spacer, so everything can pivot easily. This is a nylon nut, so we're not going to tighten it down, but there's not going to be any play once we tighten that. That's very nice. Beautiful. I headed over to Bill's to remove this hub. I care more about the shaft than the hub. The hub is not the correct one for a velvet drive anyway, and I have another one just like it. So we cut it off. Just about there. What do you got? I got maybe a 1/16. Whoa. You can't get any closer than that. Okay. I've been working on Unbeknownst now for 2 seasons of the Wooden Boat Experience, and I think it's time to launch it. I think you probably think so too, although you're probably wondering what comes next. Well, so am I all the time. I never know. So many things have gone into this, and it's been a fun project, but I do want to actually use it. So I'm shooting for June, yes, of this year, not of next year. And that means adding more hours in the boat shed, and it also means buying a bunch of new parts and materials. I do get some materials from people, but a lot of it that I have to buy. So this new bonfire.com t-shirt campaign will help me do that. And it'll also allow you to wear one of the shirts and show people how you feel about watching the WBE. This shirt right here came from a campaign that I drew for Acorn to Arabella, and you can see on the back I drew that drawing right there of their boat. So this was a bonfire t-shirt campaign as well. It started this morning. If you're watching this today, Friday, it started this morning, April 9th at 8 a.m. and it goes until April 24th at, I don't know what time, but you'll be able to tell that on bonfire.com. So April 24th it ends. At that point, they print all the shirts at the same time, and then they also ship them all at the same time. And that saves them money, and it allows me to get more money from the campaign. So I hope you'll check it out. Take a look at bonfire.com. It's called Launch Unbeknownst, or it's called Let's Launch Unbeknownst, I think. I don't have it right in front of me. I do have one thing in front of me. It's really hard to remember all this stuff, so I did write some of this down. I hope if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at that, because otherwise I get going and I'll talk for 4 or 5 minutes while I'm trying to get everything in. If I sort of read it, then it goes a little faster. I'm not sure where these are going on the boat, but they will be on the boat. I just love them. I've been waiting to stain these stringers. Well, actually, one's a stringer and one's a shear clamp. The stringer will show pretty much totally. The ceilings will come to it, top and bottom. But the shear clamp, you'll only see the bottom half of that because there's going to be a combing and the deck will cover some of it up. So I got that on, and next I'll have to throw some varnish on them. Because of the way the gauges are now, they aren't made to go through something this thick. They aren't as adjustable. Like these old ones, you had this here, and then you had a piece that, you know, went into 90 on each side, and you had this full length, and you could clamp that on there. And you could also cut the edges of those off if you needed to, the bracket. But the new ones, which I don't have one here, there's a big plastic piece that screws on the outside, and the depth doesn't give you enough for there. But when you do what I did, where you relieve the back and just leave that little bit, now the gauge will be in there, and that other piece can screw down around it and just be back in behind, which gives you that nice look with just the wood instead of a metal plate. If I had a fancy metal plate, it'd be one thing, but I'd have to make one out of aluminum. I'd rather do it this way. Snuck back in the studio after Easter dinner, and I got the throttle holder. I'm not sure what you would call that, but it's a box that holds the throttle. Got that stained. Also got the spray rail stained. That's why they're so dull. And then another coat of varnish on the flagpoles. And that header piece that goes above the gas door. And then this little strip that goes below the gas door. And then the gas door. So that is coat number, this is number 4. It's nice when you can lay them flat. Coats build up a little bit faster because you don't have to be quite so careful with how much you're putting on. But if you're going to put on a thicker coat of varnish, you do have to be careful with letting it dry enough. What you don't want is to put a coat on top of another coat that's not totally dry. Pretty soon you've got a gummy mess that you can't deal with very easily. So I actually waited on these more than the 24 hours. This was almost 40 hours between this coat. And that's the advantage of the way I'm doing it, is I'm getting these parts done ahead of time before other parts and not trying to do all the varnishing at once. Let's see if these old switches work. They're in nice shape. Maybe not. Okay, we did a little cleaning up, got the old varnish off of them, did some sanding, wire brushing, put a little wax in there to make them work a little. This one was plenty greased. This is a new one. Doesn't work any different than this old one. This is a slightly different switch. And the new one, so there's off. And also here. And then I think this one will only go on in the beginning part of the switch. Yeah. So that one you can turn you can adjust 3 different ways. This one, a little corroded right there. That's all the way out. That's halfway. Halfway only does this part. And there's off. So that one's working, and this is just a simple switch, on and off. Works. I know where there's one more like this, a new old stock switch that I will pick up tomorrow. We need 4 switches. We need lights, both running lights and anchor light. We need a build switch. We need a blower. And we also need, there's something else. We need 4 switches. I figured it out earlier. So we got 3. We'll drill holes for 4. They're all the same size as far as the diameter. And I will allow for this big of a switch behind there, even though this one's a little smaller. Although it takes up about the space up and down, just not as much side to side. Working on this helm here, I spent a lot of time making sure that this door right here cleared the edge of the helm. Perfect, had about 1/4 of an inch, looked just nice. And then I put the steering wheel on and I opened this door up, and as you can see where I drew the pencil line here, I would have had to remove that much of this door to clear the steering wheel right here. Now, I didn't feel comfortable moving the steering wheel this way. I thought it would be too tight. I wouldn't be sitting in a comfortable spot. The upholstery on the seats is only going to go over to here. This is going to be open, and there's going to be some kind of a console here to put some type of drink there that won't get spilled. I don't want those kind of gimbal sort of drink holders out here. I just like a nice spot here. I might build a little thing with 2 circles to set drinks into, and may do the same thing on the other side because that's got the same thing. Because as you can see, get some of these tools out of the way, the passenger seat opens up like this. The back of the passenger seat, I haven't hinged it yet, but this back of this seat will fold down. Now you can see it split right here because you have the thickness of the upholstery here and the thickness of the upholstery here. So if you just hinge it from the bottom, you got to create this weird thing with the foam where there's a dig out and then the foam comes out. Easier just to make this like this. The reason I did that is my plan is that over here is going to be 1 battery here and 1 in the middle, or possibly 2 batteries over here. The reason I would think about putting 2 on this side is that it would offset me. A lot of the time I'll be in this boat alone, and I don't want it leaning to the side that I'm on. When this hinges forward, if I need to deal with something when I'm out with this boat, I have a problem with a battery or something, I could open this up, only this part of the seat, that part of the seat separate. It's kind of a 60-40, and deal with the battery right here. And the battery switch, I will probably put underneath here on the inside so you don't see it. But that gives me some access without opening these hatches. Now my thought right now is, because I want a king plank in the center to match the back and to match the front, what I'm thinking is, rather than having 2 hatches that are hinged on the outside and meet together in the center, that never made a lot of sense to me unless the hatches are huge. Because what do you deal with most of the time on the motor, especially an inline motor? You deal with the sides and the front. Well, if you have the hatches open up and you're right above the top of the motor, it's hard to get to the sides. I think I'm going to put a center section that's solid, and then the doors will be hinged probably to the center, and they'll be out here. And that way I can get in there. I can probably even stand in here because there'll be a floor here. Stand in there or kneel in there and work on the side of the engine. That'll be the same way on both sides. So I may not want to open this hatch to get to the battery. Be a little more comfortable is just to open this back of the seat up, and they're right there. So that ought to work well. So anyway, that was a long way to tell you that the reason that I just moved these hinges is now I didn't want to cut this out because you'd be able to see in there. That just didn't seem right to me. And I moved the hinges without having to move this latch. I may get another one of these latches and put it over here just to make sure. I'm afraid this might rattle a little bit when the boat's going. I don't want that noise. But now you can see it's a little bit of a problem because you can't open it all the way. That's not really a huge problem. Generally what you're doing here is every once in a while you're getting something out of here. You're not getting things out of there constantly. I mean, I don't open it up in the Lyman very often. Maybe you have some life jackets in here, some boat cushions, possibly the anchor, but probably the anchor will be under where the motor is. Maybe some fenders, whatever it is. But one other thing that I'm thinking, as I sit here, I realize that I can't stretch my legs out without turning to the side, which isn't the most comfortable thing. Especially if somebody's sitting here, they don't want that to happen. I'm sometimes driving the boat for quite a while, so I want to be comfortable. Now, this isn't a bad position, but if I was in here alone, throw a boat cushion right here, like this one, and just set my feet like this. There's no reason I can't do that. Maybe I'll put a little latch on here that holds this door just like this. That'd be a pretty comfortable way to drive the boat. Don't I look comfortable? We're going to end this week with the results of my collaboration over the last week with both Briggs Auto and Marine and FlyingFishCarburetors.com. Take a listen. Don't forget that now on bonfire.com you can get your own Unbeknownst WBE t-shirt for the next 2 weeks. Check it out. There's a link below in the description. I'll see you next week in episode 35.